for strikeouts in a game. 20.
Swung on and driven to deep left. It is hard. Nice for Yankees win. Yankees win. Bernie Williams homers deep in the left field seat to lead off the 11th inning on a 1-run finish. And the Yankees beat the Orioles 5-4 to win Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Burn, baby, burn. He's done it again.
Deep left. There it goes. Staring into history. He's done it. He has done it. 62. Aaron Judge is the American League single-season home run leader. The AL King. Case closed.
What is going on, baseball fans? For Dave, I am Jeremy, and this is the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And as you saw in that open, we are here continuing our State of the Franchise series. Today, we are discussing the Houston Astros. So from championship glory to rebuilding years, every team has a story. And to discuss that story, we bring on our honored guest from the Astros Baseball Podcast, Rob Fontenot. Rob, how's it going, my man?
It's going great. How you guys doing? That's a pretty sweet intro.
Thank you.
Yep, Dave's great hard work.
Yours truly, right here. That's my
Wow.
that's my my contribution.
If only you're an Astro fan.
I would rather be lit.
You
on
could
fire.
do our intro.
We'll get to that.
Oh man, so there's definitely going to be a fun conversation here, a fun banter. So I hope. Now, as we begin this series, we always like to do a little bit of a retrospective and have you kind of give a gut reaction to the 2024 season for the Astros.
2024 was it was weird. It was really weird. The Astros went down 4-0 to the Yankees in the first series, and it was just Juan Soto beating the Astros almost single-handedly, and it just took them forever to recover. And what was crazy is they recovered once Kyle Tucker got hurt, and that was just nuts. But during the season on our podcast, we were saying, I don't know if they're ever going to turn it around. You know, they have too much talent not to, but I don't know if they're going to. And, you still believed, but, did you really believe? But then it happened, and we won the division, and Detroit took care of us pretty easily. But it was good. I mean, we sneaked in there and won the division. So, I mean, that's a plus.
Now, Houston wasn't overly active, but they did make some impactful moves, let's say. So some of the major acquisitions for Houston, obviously Christian Walker was a big one. You traded away Kyle Tucker, brought back Isaac Paredes, Hayden Wesneski, and Cam Smith, picked up Ben Gamble. So, obviously the big move would be Christian Walker. And what do you think is kind of one of the big things that he could benefit the Astros in?
Well, the thing about it is, once Yuli Gurriel got a little older, we had that gaping hole at first base, and then we went out and signed Jose Abreu, which everybody was I know I was excited about it, and he just turned out to not be very good. He didn't do good at all, except the last month of the season and the playoffs. He performed, but then last year he was so bad they let him go, and so we had John Singleton there. We would put our backup catcher there, or sometimes we would put Yainer Diaz there and let the backup catcher catch, because there was just this hole there. And now you have this all-star first baseman, and I love it. I love what he's going to bring to the Astros. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Walker is definitely a high-caliber player, Gold Glove winner, somebody that can be a consistent contributor in that lineup. especially considering, how much loss you've had from that lineup. Bregman's now gone. You guys traded away Kyle Tucker. So there's, a lot of questions as to what that lineup is going to look like in this upcoming season. So having someone that you can kind of count on in the middle of that order is definitely going to be a plus. Now, in trading away Kyle Tucker, you did bring back Isaac Paredes as kind of the big move, and that kind of signaled the beginning of the end, at least for Alex Bregman in his return to Houston. Now he's with Boston. What do you think about Paredes, and kind of where do you see his ceiling for 2025 for the Astros?
I was reading something about. I had heard it, but I forgot, and I wanted to go back and look at it. But last year, I wrote this down. Paredes hit 238 with 19 home runs. If he would have played for the Astros and been able to play in Minute Maid Park, he would have had 7 more home runs. So that you're looking at 26 homers, and he had 80 RBIs. So I look at him as someone that is going to get close to 30 home runs, and he might even get in the 90s in RBIs. I think he's going to do really good. He's a pull hitter, and I'm pretty excited about him. And I don't know if you were going to ask about it, but the thing about, Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman, 2 all-star, amazing players, and we would discuss, like, well, who do you want to give the money to? Who do we need the most? And I said, even though Kyle Tucker is a better player, Alex Bregman's going to be the hardest one to replace. There's not a lot of great third basemen out there. But what they did by trading Kyle Tucker is not only did they get the third baseman for the next 3 years, but they got Cam Smith. They took care of third base for the next probably, or maybe, depending on how long it takes Cam Smith to make it to the major leagues, but 9 years. And I think they did a great job. And if, like I said earlier, the Astros didn't start playing well till Tucker was out, so we can play well without him. He really doesn't show up in the playoffs. So I think it was a great move.
Yeah, no, I think it was one of the more underrated moves, but I think it served a need for both the Astros and the Cubs in that Tucker Paredes deal. And like you said, a lot of that comes down to Cam Smith, and that inclusion is going to be a big help for Houston. Now, one of the things that has kind of been the pitfall for Houston, if you would say, over the past couple of seasons, has been injuries, and most notably, most of your starting rotation. So Lance McCullers Jr., Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, and most recently Mauricio Dubon are all on the MLB.com injury list. What of those injuries is kind of the one that stands out the most to you?
Well, I didn't even know Dubon was on the list.
Yeah, it was.
I know someone on our team got hurt today, but like I said, I've been working all week, and then this week we've been pretty busy. But we have Christian Javier out. This guy, a couple of years ago, they predicted him to lead the entire league in ERA. This guy's a stud, and he's out. And Luis Garcia is really good. He was the one that was rocking the baby. I don't know if y'all know that. And now they don't let it. The last year he pitched, they didn't let him do it. I don't think that led to his injury. But we had to use, like, JP France. He's out also, but we used JP France. Last year we called up Spencer Arrighetti, who's one of our best pitchers in the minor leagues, but we weren't expecting him to come up till maybe this year or maybe 2026. And he got rocked when he first started, and I think he was 0-6, and then at the end he ended up, I think his ERA was under 3 or close to 3 the last 16 starts or so. So that guy stepped up. Hunter Brown, he might be the second best pitcher on the team after Framber Valdez. So I remember going into last year saying, man, we got way too many pitchers. Like, we need to trade these guys and get some outfielders. And we needed them all. So I was wrong. You can never have too much pitching. For sure. Yeah, you can never have too much pitching, especially not with the way that teams are running bullpen guys out there, the way that the league is kind of
reevaluating and emphasizing pitching, you can definitely never have too much. Now, you mentioned one of the guys that I think is going to be a big time piece for the Astros in 2025, and that's Hunter Brown. So that's the guy that I kind of pegged as the X factor for Houston, mini Justin Verlander, if you will. He kind of really modeled his delivery after JV during his time there in Houston. So for me, that's kind of the guy that is going to be the biggest kind of key to success for Houston. For you, who's the X factor for the Astros?
I know I already mentioned him just a few minutes ago, but Isaac Paredes. Isak is what everybody says. I need to stop saying Isaac. But his swing is perfect. I mean, I just said he's going to add 7 home runs. It's probably going to be more. But his swing is perfect for Dyken Park. I don't know if you know that, but we changed the name of our park. And I told everybody, if you're going to buy some tickets, get in them Crawford boxes, because Paredes is going to send you home with some he's going to send you home with some souvenirs. And I don't know if you saw Bregman hit 2 home runs today, and I don't know if I said that in my head or out loud earlier. But I made a claim on my TikTok page that he will have a better year than Bregman did last year, not with the Red Sox. So I got to correct myself there. Whatever the numbers that Bregman had last year, he'll do better. That's my prediction for Isak Paredes.
No, I can see that, especially with the way that ballpark is configured. That's going to play perfectly into his strengths.
I agree. And then Bregman, he usually doesn't start doing anything till the second month, and then last year it took him 2 months to start doing anything. But he's a big-time player. He's an amazing third baseman, and he will show up in the playoffs. So you want a guy like Alex Bregman, and Boston's lucky to have him. And I cannot believe they gave him $40 million a year, but congrats to Bregman.
Yeah, me neither.
That's a lot of money.
As a contract when that came out.
I mean, the reason why he struggled with hitting last year so late is because he had to go find a trash can.
What year was that? 2024? We just need a Dodger guy in here, because y'all love to talk about trash cans. That was 2017. We've been to like the World Series again. We went to 6 more ALCSs in a row without doing that.
About time.
It's all right. How's that bullpen?
I couldn't miss my opportunity.
How's that bullpen phone working out for you? The illegal use of bullpen phone. What was that all about?
I don't remember hearing about that.
What about your manager on national live TV saying, "Oh, we had a thing where the guy from there gave the signal to this guy"? Oh, never mind. Wait, I need to stop talking.
Boone. That guy.
Dude, that's all I do on TikTok is argue with people. And that's all they can say is trash cans. And I'm like, good one. It's Dodgers today. I made a video because this Dodger fan keeps commenting on my TikToks. And I'm like, dude, why are you so obsessed? I'm not even talking about you.
That's all right. My whole entire family is all from New England, and they're all Red Sox fans. And last year when the Yankees are just mashing everybody they come in contact with, I got my family up there. Oh, your team stinks. I'm like, where are you guys again in the standings? I forgot. Like, are you even relevant? Like, why are you talking right now?
Yeah, that's a fun rivalry right there, I bet.
Just be quiet. Sit in the corner and be quiet.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of kind of the future for Houston, you guys picked up your number 1 prospect in Cam Smith. What can you tell us about him? And are there any other prospects that you're interested in?
I can't really tell you much about Cam Smith, except I've watched some videos on him, and he's a big dude. And he went straight up the list to number 1 prospect on our team. Before that, it was Jacob Melton. This is a young kid that I know we might talk about it later, but he's a young kid that I think has a chance to take that left field spot. And I know there's so much talk about Altuve moving to left field, but that was to make room for Bregman. So, like, the Astros replaced Bregman, and then they kept talking to him, trying to get him back. And I don't know. But anyway, what was I saying?
About your prospects.
Oh, my prospects. So I haven't seen him play, but I watched him. I'm going to go watch him in AAA this year. He's like 2 hours away from me, but he's a big kid. He looks good. Cam Smith and Jacob Milton. That's what I was talking about. I told you I wasn't good at this, but this kid was our number one prospect before. And he's like, you know how you have the good prospects and you have a hole and you're like, we're going to see him this year. And then you don't. But this year, I think he has a great chance of starting in left fields. If you look at the depth chart, they have Mauricio Dubon playing left field, but he's too important being the utility guy, filling in for people when they've taken days off and stuff. So he has a chance. I have zero idea. I know Jordan can play left field, but they don't want him to play a whole bunch of left field, but he will play some. The team's better when he plays left field, and he actually hits better in left field. But anyway, the young kids, yeah. Those are only two I know about. There's some really good pitchers. I saw a video today. There's Blabach or something like that. And I don't know. I don't know a lot about them. I just know a few names, but I don't keep up with it as much.
So it's interesting that you mentioned Milton because I seen on Hot Stove this past week on MLB Network where they were kind of going through the numbers on defensively. And Alvarez is in the bottom when it comes to defensive metrics in left field. And Altuve has been defensively, and defensive metrics are what they are. They're still kind of a work in progress at best. But they have Altuve as the worst defensive second baseman over the last 3 years and getting progressively worse, which is what they kind of said facilitated the talk and the conversation of moving him to the outfield. So it's going to be interesting to see if they do decide to kind of give the young guys an opportunity out there in left field and maintain kind of the defensive weakness that Altuve has become, or if he can get back to those times where he was a good defensive second baseman.
Yeah. I think that's why they still wanted Bregman back. They could move Paredes to second, and then Altuve could play left field. And what I'd seen, the statistics for how many times the left fielder touches the ball on average per game is 2.5. I thought it would be more than that, but that's what it said, 2.5 times a game. So how good do you got to be?
Right. I think that's
We've seen a few guys for the Yankees try to play left field and just can't hack it. So, ballpark dimensions do play a big role in that. And, the thing with Alvarez, with him just being as big of a monster as he is, I'm surprised that they haven't made him a full-time. He's like David Ortiz 2.0.
Yeah.
And when he got hurt.
The nickname I've given him is Little Poppy because he's
absolutely
he really is David Ortiz 2.0 to me.
And then when he ran that ball down against Detroit, I think it was, or was in the playoffs the year before, I can't remember, and he got seriously hurt. They didn't think he was going to be back for the rest of the series. I'm like, why is this guy in the outfield? Why is he not a full-time DH?
Yeah, they don't want him. They don't want him there.
I mean, even last year running around the bases during the playoffs, and he was hobbled, and it was just a question of, how long are you going to – I know that he wants to play out there, but how long are you going to continue harming the team for the player's ego and instead of doing what's best for the squad?
Yeah, and some fans are like, put him at first. And first isn't as easy as you think it is.
No.
They think, I'm just going to stand here and catch. I'm going to catch balls. No, it's not that easy.
Not at all.
Not when you got a ball coming off the bat at 110 miles an hour.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near the infield. If they said, "Hey, you want to stand at third base and while we take batting practice?" No, I don't.
Yeah.
No. As an infielder, I absolutely love it.
Stand at third base. Aaron Judge is gonna bat, and you try to catch it. Yeah.
No,
I'm good.
I'll risk it. Now, as we go through this series, I always like to get a bold prediction from each team. So, Rob, tell me, what is your bold prediction for the Houston Astros in 2025?
My bold prediction is It's not very bold to say that they'll win the AL West, but my bold prediction is a lot of people think the Astros need to start rebuilding and things like that. They will make the ALCS again. Count on it. Bold prediction.
So it's funny because
against the Yankees.
I don't.
Oh, bring it, bring it! I would love to avenge to get rid of this demon.
All of that, yeah. Now, to me, that doesn't really feel like a bold prediction. I think that Houston has the ability, especially in the AL West. I think it's going to be very competitive with the Rangers. I think the Mariners, if they can find even a smidge of hitting, are going to be competitive in that division. But I still see it as, the old Ric Flair saying, you got to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, Houston is still the guy in that division. They're still the team. And I think that they're going to have someone knock them off. Even when the Rangers went on to win the World Series, they didn't win the division. They didn't claim the division. They got in as a wild card. So for me, I feel like that's a, kind of a fair take for Houston to kind of feel that they're still the dog in that division.
And don't sleep on the Angels either. The Angels went out and spent some money. I mean, granted, it was in Travis d'Arnaud and Yusei Kikuchi, but if they can keep Trout healthy for the whole season, that could very well be a 3-team race minus the Athletics.
And that's the other thing, though. Don't sleep on the Athletics.
Yeah,
this
the
offseason,
Athletics will have a better record than the Angels.
Well, they don't have a stadium to pay for anymore, so that's why they can pay guys money now.
That's right. How are you going to move to Las Vegas and not buy players? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
They got to start spending money. They can't be
they're
like
playing
that.
in Sacramento for the next couple of years until the stadium's built.
Yeah.
But even still, if you look back at last season, the A's had one of the better records in the second half. After the All-Star break, they had their young players kind of come up, playing every day. It's going to be a much more competitive full division in the AL West than people are giving it credit for. But I still think that, like I said, Houston is the team to beat. Until somebody knocks them off for that division crown, I still think that, that division goes through Houston.
Well, it almost happened last year.
Yeah, I think the thing that hurt us last year is that we did win the division.
Yeah.
Because we can't win at home. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it was.
Don't
it was.
say it.
Don't
say it, David.
No,
don't say it.
No,
so it is true.
You know, there was this dude he made a video that said the Astros can't win on the road. I think we couldn't win on the road that year. They didn't win any games.
That was
on the road
if I remember
the Rangers, right?
It was the year against the Nationals in 2019. The road team won every game.
That's when nobody could win a game.
That's when everything came out.
But I think is when we played the Rangers, everybody won at home. I think maybe.
Yeah. So that series, each team did not win a home game.
Yeah. So it was interesting to see how it shook out that year, and how last year it did seem to be that Houston's bugaboo was playing at home, and on the road they were, a phenomenal team. So it definitely is going to be interesting to see how it kind of shakes out. Now, for me, my bold prediction is kind of along the lines of what you're saying people are saying. I think Houston is going to sell at the deadline. I think that they're going to kind of look at the squad that they have and kind of try to retool and sell some players at the deadline. I don't think that it's going to be a full-scale rebuild and restarting of everything, but I think it's going to be similar to getting an asset for giving an asset, similar to the Kyle Tucker trade. I think they might find a couple of moves in that regard.
I think if they did get in that position, it would be Framber Valdez. This is last year, and they're not going to pay him what he wants. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean,
this is one of the best pitchers in baseball. They're going to get a haul for him, especially someone trying to win something. But it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
it's bold. It's bold. It's bold.
I mean, I can kind of see it. I mean, their tax, they only have $20.4 million to spend in tax base, and their projected total allocation is already at $213 million. And that's before arbitration. So, yeah, they don't have a whole hell of a lot to maneuver with. So I could see it.
Now, as we kind of move into the next segment here, what do you think is the biggest question facing the Astros in 2025?
The outfield. Who's going to be the left fielder? Can Chas McCormick play the way he did in 2023? That guy was a stud in 2023. Last year, not good. And then Jake Myers, our starting center fielder, he's not that good. He's okay, but we have no one in the outfield. I think that's why they wanted to move Altuve out there.
Yeah.
But they didn't pick anybody up because they were too worried about trying to get Bregman. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be see if no, you're going to I'll talk about that later.
So yeah, I mean, for me, the question that I kind of had is if they have enough to kind of reclaim their dominance atop the AL West. As we spoke about a moment ago, it's going to be a much more competitive division. And did they do enough in the couple of moves that they made to kind of re-secure themselves the top of that division? So to me, it's going to be a very interesting year to see how they kind of battle against their own division and see where they come out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough. I mean, you have Christian Walker replacing, somebody that wasn't that great. He didn't do that bad. I think Singleton had like 48 RBIs, but we got like a legitimate all-star Gold Glove first baseman. And does that cancel out losing Tucker? Maybe not, but we got better there and worse in right field. But yeah, I mean, this batting lineup, 1 through 6 is good. It's a really good lineup, but 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, the real question.
It's to see. It's to see. Yeah.
So that kind of then leads to the next question. And what is the biggest frustration for Astros fans going into this year?
That they didn't sign any outfielders. That's what we're all frustrated about. They're like, look at Santander. Look at this guy. Look at that guy. Why don't they get that guy? And they just kept going after Bregman. It's like, you already replaced him. Stop focusing on that already and do something about the outfield. But, they're always going to come on TV and they're going to say, oh, we have all faith in Chas and Jake's our man and we're going to be just fine. But I think they're going to be good. I'm not too sure about our outfield.
Order. Yeah.
Even if, like I said, even if Altuve moved to the outfield, who's going to play second?
Right.
There's going to be another guy hitting 199 playing second. So I don't know what they're going to do. We got 3 holes to fill, and they didn't fill them.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me how much they were kind of focusing on trying to bring Bregman back, having thought that they replaced him already. When the early reports about the failed trade with Nolan Arenado and the Cardinals went through, and then they quickly pivoted to Isak, I was like, all right, cool. They already nailed down third base. Now they're going to move on to other things. And they kind of just never. And it's like the question then it has to be asked, if you had brought Bregman back, now you're plugging him in at second, and you still have a question mark in left field with Altuve out there. So it's like you never really addressed those needs that were had.
And then they go in,
but you have a bat.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they go and trade Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
Like, you already know you're going to have an outfield problem. He's under contract for 1 more year.
He's just under contract for this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, but that dude's going to want.
But what I'm saying is you keep it like Bregman was pretty much already out the door at that point. You had already brought in his replacement, 2 of them, actually, in theory. Yeah. And then you shoot yourself even more in the foot by trading away your best outfielder. To me, I don't know. That just doesn't make sense, but it's not my money and not my team. So,
but like I said earlier, that's when they started winning when Tucker went out. So they feel like they can win without him. I mean, he is the best player.
Yeah,
he is. I mean, he's second team all MLB. He wasn't last year because he got hurt, but he's really good. But like I said earlier, that third baseman Bregman was going to be hard to replace, and they did. They filled the third base slot up for the next 9 years for a guy that they were only going to have for 1. If they would have kept them, Bregman would have left. What would they do next? They wouldn't have anybody to trade to fill that hole. They would have some dude from AAA there, and the team will be worse for it.
Yeah, I get it.
I just think that they should have, as you said, Rob, that they should have transitioned after that move and went to pick up for the outfield and never did. So that kind of leads me then into the question, how would you grade the offense heading into this season for the Astros?
I put a B. That's what I gave them. Like I said earlier, if you look at the lineup, Altuve, I think Altuve is probably going to bat first, and then maybe Christian Walker. But you got I'll just do the offense. Like I don't know the how they're going to do it, but you got Yainer Diaz, you got Christian Walker, Altuve, Jeremy Pena, Isaac Paredes, and Yordan Alvarez. That's 6 really good players right there. And then the outfield, you might
That's
have
what
that rookie. You might have Jake Myers and Chaz. I mean, that's what I'm
Soup
saying. Like
sandwich.
6 is pretty good. And when we get to the pitching, I'll tell you why that I gave the offense a B.
So for me, in kind of the preparation for this series, I had a B minus. I think that that is a solid
Fair.
top 2/3 of the order, but there are real questions about what you're going to get offensively from the bottom half of that lineup. And with as competitive as the AL West is going to be, I think that being able to have that lineup be able to be turned over in that bottom half heading into the top is going to be something that is really going to determine the success or failure for the Astros in 2025. So that's kind of where I gave them a B minus on that grade. Now, on the pitching side of things, how would you grade out the pitching staff?
I gave them an A. You got Framber Valdez, Ronel Blanco, who should have been an all-star. I think he had a sub-3 ERA. Then you had Hunter Brown, who was probably, we already talked about him earlier, and Spencer Arrighetti, who went from a 99 ERA. He got it down in the 5s, I think, by the end. But we don't have that 5th guy. The Wesneski guy right now is the 5th guy. But we have Lance McCullers. I wrote this down here somewhere. Lance McCullers hasn't played since the 22 World Series. Luis Garcia is coming back in April, and Christian Javier will be back in July. So if we get Luis Garcia in there, especially Javier, if Javier returns to be as good as he is, that's an A+.
Yeah.
But right now, I think it's pretty good. You have that line. You have those pitchers going in there. The bullpen might be a question. I'm just going over the rotation here, but you have that, that level of starting pitching, and you have the 1 through 6 hitters. They might not have to score too many runs if those pitchers pitch like I believe they can.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting, in part of what you said. Now, my grade for the pitching staff was a C, and I think that the reason why is there's a lot of questions to me about the bullpen. And when it comes to that bullpen, Josh Hader is kind of the only proven talent, and even him, it depends on the night. And then when you look at the rest of that bullpen, there's serious questions to me about where you're going to get those innings. And we know how much this game has become a bullpen game. I think that the other part of it is that you have to see how those young pitchers in Spencer Arrighetti, in Hunter Brown, kind of take that next step. If you can get back, Luis Garcia and Christian Javier to the levels that they were when they got hurt, then yes, that can quickly jump up higher because of the ability that those pitchers have. But going into the season, I think that there's a lot more questions than kind of surefire things with that rotation. But I think that there's quickly room for it to grow if those guys can come back and pitch the way that we know they're capable of.
Yeah, we have some guys in the bullpen that some people may never even heard of, but they did great last year. Taylor Scott and Caleb Ort, they did great. Brian King was okay. Let me see who else we got. That's what I was saying earlier. I'm not really too sure about the bullpen, but Brian Abreu is a stud. That'll be our 8th guy. So we do. If the pitchers can go 7, will be great. But they don't go 7 anymore. So it depends on who that. It's that 7th. It's that 7th guy, the 7th inning guy that's going to be the person that's going to have to be there. I talked about, Josh Hader, we had him and Ryan Presley last year.
Yep.
And I was thinking, did it affect Ryan Presley? I guess Josh Hader, I almost said Ryan Hader. Did it affect Ryan? I said it again. Did it affect Hader? I'm just going to say the last name.
Yeah.
Did it affect Hader having Presley there? The guy that's been the closer for the last 4 or 5 years, thinking, you know what, if I don't do great, they're going to replace me as the closer, and I got to be the closer. Because that's what Presley said when they traded in Chicago. I'll waive my no trade clause, but I got to be the closer. These guys want to be the closer. And did it affect Ryan Presley coming in the 8th inning and not being the closer? Probably. So I think splitting these two guys up, I think they'll both have a better year than they did last year, just because of that.
Well, Josh Hader's always been kind of a head case to begin with, anyway. So you don't know what version of him you're going to get on a nightly basis just by what's going on in between his ears. I mean, he was, a head case in Milwaukee, and then he got, pissed off when, Devin Williams then became the closer and they shipped him off to San Diego. And then they wanted him to come in the 8th inning and going down the playoff stretch at San Diego. He's like, I'm a closer. I don't pitch in the 8th inning. And now, he goes to Houston and gets kicked around pretty good the first month of the season last year. And just I don't know if you haven't figured it out going down the stretch, but to me, he's always been kind of a head case. You don't know what you're going to get on a nightly basis, just like Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah. He used to be with the Astros, and then they made a trade like at the trade deadline. They traded Josh Hader to Milwaukee, so he came home.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sometimes you fall in love with these prospects. Not really Hader, but we made that trade to get Zach Greinke from Arizona, and they added this dude named Seth Beer, and I was so angry. And I don't even think he plays anymore. But I was so mad. I was like, this is our first baseman of the future, and you traded him. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he really didn't do much for Arizona.
No.
Well, imagine how the Diamondbacks feel when they traded away a guy named Max Scherzer and Dansby Swanson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So now, as we kind of get towards the last couple of segments here, we look at the divisional ranking predictions, and Pacoda has you at second in the AL West with 87 wins, and Fangraphs has the Astros finishing in third with 84 wins. So where do you see the Astros finishing in the division, and what does that win total look like?
This guy was saying the Astros won't even win 80 games, and I was like, you want to bet? I'll bet you, but he never said anything. Yeah. I do think that's going to be tough. We're not going to go out and win 90-something games. We're not going to win 100 games. It's going to be tough. And I don't think the Astros will be sellers at the deadline unless they're like just horrible, but I think they're too talented to be horrible. And hopefully they'll stay in it at the deadline, get them a nice outfielder. We don't have too many prospects to give away, but I don't know. I would say, what'd you say? That one was 87?
So, yeah, Pacoda has him at second with 87 wins. Fangraphs, 84 wins in third.
87 sounds good. Pacoda's pretty good. They predict everything pretty well.
It all depends on how the health of the team holds up.
Oh, yeah. You never know.
Can't keep that starting five healthy. It's
have
a repeat of what happened last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. In kind of my preparation, I had the Astros finishing in second with 86 wins. So we're kind of in the same ballpark right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, as we kind of wrap up and look at the title of this series and what the future is for the Astros in this year, what do you believe is the state of the franchise for the Houston Astros
I do think they are a postseason team, a division winner in the options you gave me. And hopefully somebody in the minor leagues that plays outfield comes out of nowhere. Like Jeremy Pena, for example.
Yeah.
We lost Carlos Correa. This dude comes in. He didn't have the greatest season, but when we got to the playoffs, he was the ALCS MVP and the World Series MVP.
He had an amazing postseason.
And who knew that this guy was going to be? I mean, I don't want to call him a stud. He's okay. He's not a stud, but we need somebody. Jacob Melton, come up to the Astros and turn things around. Usually, you have some really good prospects, but they strike out too much, and you just can't bring them up. But we are a contender. We're not going to rebuild. They wouldn't sign Christian Walker for 3 years and Isaac Paredes for 3 years and trade for Cam Smith if they were going to rebuild. They wouldn't have extended Altuve for 5 years. They're not going to rebuild. All the pitchers are young except for Framber. They just got to find someone to fill them outfield spots. Hopefully they'll get lucky and somebody will be awesome, but they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So fun little tidbit, a piece of news that I had heard long ago in terms of, you asked the question briefly there, who saw this coming from Pena? Carlos Correa. They actually asked Correa about Pena as he was leaving the organization. And he's like, you guys got it right there. Because he knew he wasn't coming back because they weren't going to pay him what he wanted. But he gave his stamp of approval on his, replacement. And as he showed in that postseason, he was definitely worth, the investment and the opportunity that Dusty Baker gave him in playing every day.
Yeah. And that's the big success of the Astros is those minor league guys coming up and doing great. Because you got Altuve, Bregman, Correa, George Springer, like almost every player you can think of that was a superstar, they came from the Astros. They weren't free agents. They didn't get traded for. The Astros have the most homegrown talent, or the last time I looked, they did, than any other team. And you know why? Because they don't want to pay people 11-year deals and 13-year deals and $40 million a year. And so far, it's been working out.
Yep, for sure.
It doesn't matter how much money you spend. Us as Yankees fans, we see it all the time. You don't spend it in the right place on the right people with the right, analytics behind it. You're just wasting money at that point. Yeah. I mean, we've gone through it the last, 5 to 7 years of just paying the wrong people a lot of money and just getting
longer than that.
Yeah.
Beaten over the head for it. Like Jacoby Ellsbury, Aaron Hicks, Carl Pavano, to even go back a little bit further. I mean, you can spend all the money you want, but if you're not spending in the right places, it's just not doing you any good.
Yeah, I'm kind of talking like Kyle Tucker's here, and they traded him because they're not going to give him that deal. Bregman left because they're not going to pay him. I'm not talking about like going out and paying other people, but you have these guys that are superstars on your team, and you're letting them walk for nothing. And that's because you're going for championships every year. But I think, how I said they traded Tucker for, to replace the guy at third. But maybe the Astros owners don't think they have that World Series team, and that maybe that's why they did it.
Well, I think if the tank had kept going, like their bad stretch had gone on all season long, I guarantee you Bregman's no longer there and Tucker's no longer there, because they would have definitely traded those, and Verlander too. They probably would have traded Verlander too.
Yeah.
To a contending team. So, and then at that point, Houston could have definitely have rebuilt their farm system from the ground up, but we're trading those two guys.
That's what we were saying. I mean, it's like, if they're not going to pull out of this, then they better trade these guys and get something for them. There's no reason. That's what I'm saying about this year. Like, if they're not expecting to win anything, then why have Kyle Tucker on the team?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm sure that's not why they did it, but at least they got something for it. They had to replace Bregman somehow, and And you can see it when you're watching your team. You're like, this guy's not going to stay here. Bregman's going to want a ton of money. And then he comes out when the season's over, I want 11 years. And that's automatically saying you're not going to stay here because the Astros aren't going to give you 11. And the same thing happened with Correa. He wanted all this money, and he gets a small, not a small amount of money, but the years are small.
Deal, yeah.
They don't get what they think they're going to get. But Bregman got paid.
Yeah.
That was so much money. He did.
Yeah.
But Correa got his contract with the Twins.
All that Forest guys.
Yeah. He got the contract with the Twins, and he opted out and went through it again. Couldn't get the money, went back to Minnesota.
Yep. And to me,
Bregman has opt-outs. He can opt out after the first year if he wants.
And probably will unless he has a bad year. Those Boris guys, man, they really get hyped up by Scott and really has them thinking that they're going to get the world in their hands, and it doesn't end up being there.
Well, the thing that drives me nuts is sports in general, right? Guys come into the league, they play their first initial 6-year deal, and then they're like, you know what? I've served out my minor league contract. Now I want to get paid just because, this guy got – it's like even in the offseason, like no one moved a muscle until Juan Soto signed. It's like, I'm sorry, you have the same caliber player as Juan Soto. No? Then why are you sitting around waiting for this guy who's going to sign for almost $1 billion when you're batting 238 with 20 home runs and under 100 RBIs, and you think you're going to get 11 years and $350 million? Yeah. Get real, dude. Get real.
Like Bregman had the worst year in his career last year. Yeah. And then he wants someone to pay him for 11 years. It's nuts.
At being over 30 years old.
Yeah, he's like 31. And you just had your worst season of your career. You're 31. How many years do you want? Yeah, 11. Give me 11. I'll be 42 and I'll be even worse.
If there was ever a team to be a blueprint for not doing this kind of disaster, I think of the Detroit Tigers when they gave Miguel Cabrera that 9-year extension when he was 35 years old. Yeah. I was like, what do you – and then, like, when he retired, they're like, oh, they would have had to pay him for another 4 years.
Crazy.
Like, no. You do what the Angels did, right? Mike Trout had already served out a – 7 years, I think $180 million extension, and then signs another 10-year deal when that was up when he was like 26, 27 years old. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely interesting in terms of how the Houston Astros are going to run this season. It'll be a fun watch for sure. Rob, we want to thank you for joining us here on this installment of the State of the Franchise here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast. Let everybody know where they can get more content from you in terms of Astros coverage.
Well, if you're an Astro fan, you can my TikTok is the funnest one. I love being on that. It's Astros Baseball Pod. Apparently the other name is taken. Astros Baseball Pod on TikTok. And on X, I'm at Rob Fontenot. I'm barely on there. I used to be on there every day, but that's it. You can just find my podcast on Apple and anywhere you want. And there's even a YouTube page if you want to watch it.
For sure. And we'll definitely have people looking to that and subscribing to your channel. It's been a fun conversation. As always, we want to make sure that everybody here on the YouTube side follows our link tree. It has all the pertinent details to our show, the merch store, the sponsors, the social platforms, the audio platforms, all that good stuff is all in there. And as always, on the YouTube side of things, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell for post notifications so that each and every time we drop new content here on the channel, you will be alerted. And if you're listening on the audio side, make sure that you leave a 5-star rating and review, as it does help us continue to grow this community. Once again, for Dave and myself, we want to thank you, Rob, for joining us, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.